Today, we have a really cool guest on. Her name is Renee Landers. She is from Houston, Texas. And Renee, you are 70 years old, correct?
Yes, in fact, I'm almost 71. In about 5 weeks, I'll be 71. So yes, I'm 70.
And the reason that matters, and this is the first, and we're probably going to try and bring some more guests on like this. The title of my podcast is Stories Worth Sharing. And I think Renee is a story worth sharing because at the young age of 69, you decided to do a physique contest.
Yeah, a bikini, but yeah, a bodybuilding competition in the bikini category. Yes, at 69.
So we'll chat contest stuff, but tell us a little bit about you, your background. Like what'd you do for a career? What were you doing, say 30 years ago, things of that nature?
Okay. I was born and raised in Houston, and I've actually been self-employed for about 35 years in a small business. It's a building permit expediting service. So we take plans to the city and go through all the red tape for developers to get their building permits so they can start construction. So I've been doing that all these years. And now my son is actually doing it. So I'm like 99% retired, which is really awesome to see your son, your child take over your business and be successful. So that's really so wonderful. So that's really been my business. And it's just, I was a single mom from the time he was 2.5, and I had this business and I juggled it. But despite that, fitness was still so important to me. In fact, when I was pregnant, I was running, 6 miles a day till I was about 5 months pregnant. I did a 10K, and then I couldn't do it anymore. And, but yeah, so I've been into fitness, pretty much all my adult life, and my career has been this permit service for a long, long time.
And when we look at fitness, so it's kind of changed rather dramatically in the last probably decade and a half to maybe 2.5 decades. But for the most part, women were somewhat overlooked when it came to fitness, especially in terms of weight training. Now, that's removing aerobics and things like that were popular in the 80s into the 90s. So how old were you when you started to actively exercise?
I would say I was in my 20s, really. I was probably in my early 20s. And I just had a lot of energy, and I knew that I wanted to be fit then. It wasn't the norm, really. I mean, not as many, most of my friends weren't into it. My family wasn't. But for some reason, I just wanted to feel good. And I knew exercise always made me feel good. And I remember I even wanted to open a gym. This is when I was in my 20s. I mean, I never did it. Probably a good idea that I didn't do it. But I remember it was on my mind. And of course, more of the aerobic stuff. I wasn't thinking about weightlifting or anything like that. I dabbled into weights, but not really seriously. So,
So at what age did you start to weight train, and what kind of prompted you to start lifting weights and move away from just running or move away from aerobics?
well, okay. So I'll back up a little to when I had my son, which he was born in 1985, so however old that is. But when I was pregnant with him, I was running. But then when I had him, and then I started back running again, and I was like 34 or 35. I remember I got up to 2 miles of running, and then my lower back, it was just excruciating pain. I could not get past 2 miles. And so I went to the doctor, orthopedist, or whomever, and he said, you've got issues with your back, and you need to stop running. You're going to keep ruining yourself. And so that was in my, mid 30s, whenever that was the beginning of me realizing that I was not going to be able to run, and I was going to have to figure out another way of getting fit. And so I did lots of different exercise things, the usual Zumba and jazzercise. And I went to the gym some and did some weights, but I was never consistent. But as time went on, and of course I had this business I was running, and I was doing what I could to exercise then. But finally, at 58, I had a lower lumbar fusion. Had tried everything else, but I was to such a point I could barely walk. I mean, I was already thinking about crafts that I could do if I couldn't walk, like making jewelry and just different things. I was trying to think about how I'm going to do my business. Can I go in a wheelchair? All these things were coming to my mind. But anyway, so I found this awesome neurosurgeon at 58, and he did a lower lumbar fusion on me. My L5 and S1 are fused together. So that was at 58, and he said, "Well, go get your rehab done, and you can do whatever you want." So he was encouraging. It wasn't like, "Oh no, don't exercise ever again." That was not his thing. And so as time went, I did my rehab. 58, 59. And then finally, as I was approaching 60, I thought, I need to get serious about this. I mean, I want to be as strong as I can be. I want to play with my grandkids. I have a lot more life to live. And I don't want to just be an average body. I want to be the best body I can be. I know how much physical fitness makes me feel good. And, you look good too if you do it regularly. So when I hit about 60, I went to the doctor first, and I went to a doctor at Baylor, and he put me on hormone replacement therapy, HRT. That's kind of controversial, but I'm going to, and I'm still going to him 10 years later. But the big thing was he put me on hormone replacement therapy, and he introduced me to this awesome trainer, Dustin Jackson. And Dustin is still my trainer today. And that was really the beginning of me doing weight training at 60. And it was really the best thing that could ever happen to me. That surgery was kind of like, it was like a good thing, because it triggered me into the next thing, which is, okay, you need to do this for yourself for the rest of your life. So that was the beginning of my weights. I was about 60, and luckily it wasn't too far away. Dustin, I trained with him 2 or 3 times a week, and my weight was okay. I mean, I wasn't like seriously dieting or anything like that. I was in pretty good condition. I was heavier than I am now, by, I don't know, maybe 15 pounds, maybe 20 pounds at one time or another. So anyway, so Dustin is the one who got me started on the weights. And nothing elaborate. It's a tiny gym that we work out in the village, not too far away. And so he's the one who got me started on weights when I was about 60. And time went on, and we kept doing it over and over again every year. And I'd ask, what could I do differently? Are there any other challenges? It's like, I'm doing good at this, and what else can I do? So that's when Dustin started talking about bodybuilding competitions, when I was probably working out after a couple of years, when I was about 62. So then, shall I go on?
Yeah, well, so I want to go back to 58. So at 58,
Okay.
you're
Okay.
told you're going to need a lower lumbar fusion. And
Hmm.
for those that don't know, I'm guessing, and I saw some pictures in your Instagram reels. So I'm guessing you got some screws and plates. And
Right.
there's a couple
Yeah.
joints that used to move, and now that they don't. There's a
Right.
couple of them that are just like a stick instead of a
Hmm.
couple hinges. So that could have been pretty devastating. For a lot of people, hearing, hey, you not only do you need surgery, but it could be surgery that's going to impact what you can or can't do. Not to mention that lower back issue already took running away. And instead of
Right.
seeing that as a negative, how did you, like, you didn't see it? It doesn't sound like you totally saw it as this big negative. You kind of saw it as, okay, I'll just do something else.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, really, that was it. I never thought of how devastating. I mean, to me, I was devastated because I could barely walk before I had that surgery. So I'm thinking anything is better than that. And the doc, he was serious about, he had all kind of patients of all ages, and they went back to their activities. Now, of course, you've got to be smart and reasonable. And this is a lower fusion, down low. And so these were considerations, but I never thought about it being something that would stop me. I mean, to me, that was like a gift. It's like it's going to help me live the rest of my life in a wonderful way. So no, I never felt negative about it. But my doctor is the one who encouraged me too. And if he'd have said something different, I would probably still pursue it in some way. I mean, I just knew I felt good, and I wasn't, falling down anymore after that surgery. So I knew that it was worth it, and he encouraged it. And hey, he got me, I got a trainer, and and it made all the difference. So I never felt negative about it.
So
I
you're,
really
yeah,
didn't.
so I think that we're right off the bat, we're seeing, at least from the outside looking in for me, like your mindset is probably different than most people's, because you
Probably.
didn't look at it as this, insurmountable task to overcome. My God, I need surgery and fusion and oh geez. You just kind of took it in stride and were like, you know what, I'm gonna be able to walk pain free. And
Hmm.
this doctor is saying, go get out there, live your life. And you connected with the trainer and you started with weights and you just kept moving. And that's awesome. Now, the weight training part at that time, at your age,
Hmm.
I mean, you probably didn't have many female friends your age that were getting started lifting weights, did you?
No, I didn't. I have lots of friends that I do things with, and I have travel and we dance together. And so, but not a lot of people who were into lifting weights. You're absolutely right. So that was a whole different situation there.
Yet
Very
here
observant.
yet here's Renee, she's lifting weights. And
Uh-huh.
then looking at it, and you said something else, like you didn't want to just be average. You wanted to be better than that. And again, I think that's pointing to, where your mindset is at, just not seeking to settle, I guess. And what were your thoughts? You're age 60, you get on HRT and you're looking at it like, hey, I want to live my best life.
Yeah, I didn't ever think like, well, this is the end of my life. I mean, I just didn't ever, I don't think like that. I guess that's my, in fact, today at 70, I don't think like that. I think I don't think old, I guess that's part of it. And I don't let anyone around me whine, or if they talk about their aches and pains, I say no old speak around me. That's what I call it.
Do you
Because
really?
I coined that phrase,
Okay.
old speak. No old speak. I don't want to, don't whine about it. I'm not going to whine about it. I don't believe in verbalizing that stuff out into the universe. Just don't. And that's going to be one of my reminders at the end too. But yeah, I always, I mean, I'm happy. I'm grateful. I'm grateful, well, that I feel good and that I'm able to do these things at my age. And kind of spread the word. I mean, I'm grateful that you're inviting me to talk about this, because I think there are so many people that need to hear it as we age. I mean, it doesn't have to be a death sentence. I mean, yeah, we're going to die, but it doesn't have to happen right away.
Yeah, and that's, I wanted to dig a little deeper, right? After seeing your content on Instagram. I kind of wanted to try and understand what makes you different. Like, why are what how is it that you are looking at, let's say, 68 years of age differently than the next person? And I have a fair amount. I mean, I owned a commercial gym for 12 years. I've owned a training business for 20, worked with I don't know, thousands of people at this point. And there is a difference. And I kind of wanted to pull that out and get you to share, like, hey, look, I'm seeing the same thing as the next lady. I'm just choosing to see it differently.
Hmm. And you said the word choose. It's a choice.
Yes.
It is a choice, and I'm choosing to think of all the good things that can happen. And I'm choosing to say, I'm going to make the most of this day. I like to say, I crush life daily. I'm going to make the most of today, the best I can. And, when I go to the gym, I'm going to do the best I can that day. Even if I don't feel good that day, I'm going and I'm going to make the most of it. But yeah, it's a choice, and you make a decision, and it's a mindset. I feel like it's got to start in your mind. We can talk all day about, you need to do so many reps of this, lift that, eat that, but it's got to be in your mind first, and you've got to, believe in yourself. And I think that's part of it. We don't believe in ourselves enough. And women, as we get older, we're so, uh, you know, uh, everything is about your looks, and we become less relevant. I guess that's a big word, feeling relevant. And we feel less relevant. I mean, as I started, easing out of my business and my son working it, I had some feelings like that. And I don't feel relevant. I mean, I feel relevant now. I mean, I feel good. In fact, I feel like I have a whole nother purpose for the rest of my life, just to encourage people that it's never too late. Um, and I just always choose to do the best I can. I want to be my best me, I guess. And I think that's kind of something that we should do. It's like I feel we're obligated to a certain extent. I mean, we're given, or whatever we're blessed with, share it, be happy about it, and just continue on and just keep persevering.
Well, and I agree, and I think we all come generically, I always say, from the factory, and the mold is broken, and we're intended to be our own unique individual, not a cheap copy or a cheap attempt at copying someone else. So it's interesting because you kind of nailed a lot of the pieces that I see in successful people. So a lot of times I do these podcasts with small business owners, and you're actually the first on the health side of things. But a lot of it comes down to that mindset, believing in yourself, all of those things, and being
Hmm.
willing to make a decision. I'm either going to
Hmm.
be a
True.
day older, or I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I am a day older.
Right. I agree. That's true. Yeah, I think it's a persistence thing. It's a determination and I think but it starts with a choice. I choose to be determined. I choose these paths. I mean, you don't have to choose them, and there's nothing wrong with you if you don't choose it. But it's a choice you make, and once you make that choice, you have options, and there's avenues. And you can pick and choose what you want to do. And you said something about the small business. So yeah, as a small business person, you got to. It takes a lot. You've been one too. You are one. And one thing I remember in my permitting business is I never took the first no or the second no, and maybe not the third no. So because it's a tough business, my business. You go to the city, you deal with the permit plan reviewers, you deal with clients, and there's always a lot of negativity. And I always positively approached people. That's another thing, being positive. And sometimes you try a different angle, but you don't have to give up. And that's what really it's all about. You just don't give up. You just don't stop. You just keep going and keep persisting in a positive way, thinking positive.
And you would argue and make the case that these are things that all people could do. So anybody could be like you.
I think so. I'm just a normal person with a lot of determination. That's how I feel. And I think because it is a choice. Just like you said, I'm choosing this. I could choose to lay in bed and feel sorry for myself, because I'm, 70 years old, if I wanted to. But I'm not choosing that. I mean, it's a choice. And people need to wake up to that thought that it is a choice. It is uh you can go one way or another, and I'm just choosing the good stuff.
And when we look at least in North American culture, for those that have played organized athletics, or what we call sports, when they get out of high school, that ends. Or for a lucky few, it might be around age 21 to 23 when collegiate athletics end. And then it's like, well, okay, now I'm going to ride the couch or the recliner, and I'll go punch the clock from 9 to 5. And it doesn't have to be that way. Here we are, we're chatting today, and you chose to step on the physique stage as a bikini competitor at what, 68 years of age?
Well, I was 69 when I actually went on
69
stage.
when you
Yeah.
competed. So
Yeah.
clearly, your activities and competing, or sport, or whatever we want to call it, doesn't have to end in your late teens or early 20s.
That's right. Oh, sure. I would say definitely not.
But yet for most people it does. They reach a certain age, and it's like, okay, I'm too old for that now.
Hmm. Yes, they limit themselves, and that's what I feel people do too much. You limit yourself because of some circumstances or because of your age. I like to say I don't let my birth year define me. So stop it. In fact, my mother was another person who she was a big influence on me. She lived to almost 100, and she would say that too. She'd say, well, they're limited. because you limit yourself. And so don't limit yourself. I think that is so important. People just don't, set that bar high. That's part of it is, reach for the stars. That's an old saying, but really, it's true.
That's interesting. And I mean, if you set no goal, you're probably going to achieve it. If you choose to focus on being a year older, well, that's all you will be. And, I'm closer to 50 than I am to 40. I'm 47 at the time we're doing this. And I tell people, like, if someone gets this body after me, it's going to be thoroughly used up. Like, there will be nothing left. But because of my age, I'm not going to choose to stop doing things.
Awesome. Well, I
Now,
think that's what it's about.
and so we're in our early 60s. You start weight training with Dustin. That's his name, right? So you start
Yes.
lifting weights, and you're coming back and you're saying, well, what else could I do? What else could I do? And somewhere in your late 60s, this idea of doing a contest comes up. What were you like? What changed in your exercise or your eating or just overall lifestyle when you decided, hey, I'm going to do one of these contests?
Well, what I want to back up a little bit and tell you,
Okay.
every year that I was training with Dustin, 61, 62, we would talk about what else can I do, what other, whatever goal, and that's when uh, he encouraged me to compete, like at 62, 63, and I looked into it. I didn't know what it was, and I researched it, and it's like I could not get over. I could not get past putting on this skimpy, sparkly bikini and getting on a stage in front of a bunch of strangers. That is what stopped me. I'm not kidding you. 64, 65, 60, every year. I mean, he kept talking about it. And I just couldn't handle it. It's like, I can't. But finally, whenever COVID hit, that's the thing. Whenever COVID came, and I was working out in the gym, and then they shut the gyms down, right? And that freaked me out. And I just said, okay, I can't let this mess up my fitness. So Dustin came to my house. I have a great big patio, and he trained me and a few other people from the gym in my patio for several months as we had to. And that was whenever so I doubled down during COVID. I said, no, I'm not going to gain weight over this. I'm not doing that. That is not going to control me. I can control my reaction to this COVID stuff. And that's what I did. So I didn't gain any weight, and I doubled down, and we kept working out. And then that's when I said, okay, before I turn 70, I'm going to compete. That's what I told Dustin before I turned 70. So we were, evolving into that during COVID. And then finally, I guess it was when eventually, we started weight training me more seriously when I was about 68. Now, I didn't start cutting or anything like that. I started lifting more and heavier, more often and heavier. And finally, I said, okay, I'm going to pick a show. We're going to do it. And I travel a lot and I do a lot. So I did about a 2 to 3 month prep, not a 6 month prep or anything like that, because there was a show that was going to be in August and this was in May. And I said, okay, let's get started. I want to do this. I want to do that August show. And that's how it happened, really. It's just these circumstances happened. And I just said, okay, I'm going to do it. And that's what happened. And I got a nutrition person and a posing coach, and Dustin trained me. And that was May 24th of 2021, whenever I made that decision. And I competed on August 7th of that year at the Lee Labrada Classic in the Woodlands. And that was my very first show. And it was really something. I can't even believe I did it, but it was really cool.
So going out on stage, moments before you went out on stage, were you thinking you were going to compete again? Or were you thinking, I set this bucket list goal, I put it out there, I attached a date, I'm here, I'm going to check the box. When I go to bed tonight, the box is checked. Were you thinking, box is checked, I'm not doing this again?
I didn't think that. Now
Okay.
I didn't think anything except uh I kept visualizing receiving a trophy. And I was asking my guardian angels to help me get up there and be my best me on that stage and just be myself, and not screw up. And so, but I didn't think about it as a bucket list item. I didn't have a plan. But after I was finished, I just loved it. I said, I want to do this again, as hard as it was.
So did you get a trophy?
Yeah, I got a trophy, and I know that doesn't really matter, but so I got this trophy, and it was a shock because competed in three different categories that day, and for masters, it was for 50 plus. I'm a 69-year-old competing with a bunch of 50-year-olds, so I didn't place any in the masters, but I also did open. That's where it's by your height class. All ages. So I got sixth place in open for 5'1" and under. So I mean, it was sixth place, but I got a trophy, and I took that trophy, and I was happy to get it.
So I mean, I want to highlight too what I think I've seen in conversation with others is that you visualize getting a trophy, and lo and
Hmm.
behold, you did. So
Yeah.
I think there's value and there's definitely something to that. Now, the next thing, so the first time I competed, I had lost 60 some pounds and got convinced to compete. So I did. And back then, every event back then had a guest poser. Today, less and less do. And the guest poser came up and he said, "Are you going to do this again?" And I was like, "No way." And he said, "See me when you come off stage." So I go out on stage and I come back off stage and he's waiting and he's like, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm definitely doing this again."
You said that right
Yeah.
after
Oh,
me.
yeah,
Oh my
absolutely.
God. I love it. I love it. That is so cool.
So you picked up some hardware
I did.
and visualized it, saw it,
Hmm.
and lo and
Hmm.
behold, it happened.
Hmm.
And you walked away thinking, geez, I'm going to do this again.
Yeah, I just knew I loved it. And it's like, I just fell in love with the whole bodybuilding community. I mean, honestly, I feel like I found my people. That's what I say. I feel like I found my people at 69 years old. Now, I have so many wonderful friends that I do lots of wonderful things with, but this is a different mindset. These are people who we all think alike, and there's no judgment. There's none of that. It's a whole different community. I mean, I have this whole other family in my life now at 70 years old that I would not have had if I hadn't have gotten on that stage. And
So
I'm thrilled about that.
now, pre May of that year, the first contest year, so 2021, before May versus say the day after you got on stage in August, how different did you look? Did you change a lot in that, say, 12-week time period?
Yeah, I did. And but because I was leaning out a lot, and I mean, I was lifting heavier. I was doing all the things now, but I mean, that's a short prep. Like I'm sure I could have lifted more before the May time. I mean, but Dustin was kind of prepping me for it because he knew I was going to do something. Those months before, so I was lifting more and heavier, but not extreme. And but in that time, my body did transform a lot. Of course, you get lean. I got really low in my weight. So, you could see whatever those muscles were, they were, I mean, there was something there because I'd been lifting for 10 years. So there was some lean, there was some muscle in there. But yeah, it transformed. But since then, I've competed in 6 shows since I started. And my body has changed a lot during all during all that time till now, too.
So a lot of people make the mistake when they look at contest prep, and in our unofficial study, and I promote 2 contests, have for 20, almost 20 years now. I think 28 contests to date. Competitors that do well prep for around 20 weeks. But that being said, people that are new don't realize that it's a constant evolution. Your body, just the
Hmm.
more you stick with it with great consistency, the more you just continue to evolve in a positive way, you continue to improve. And sitting
I
here
agree.
today, 6 contests later, does your body look different than it did, say, 4 years ago?
Oh yeah, a lot different. A lot different. Um, I mean, for one thing, I actually lost about 10 or 15 pounds about 6 months to a year before I started prepping for this show. Um, and I'm going to tell you a little story about that too. I went to and I was like, I don't know, 130 pounds. And I'm 120 pounds right now, but it's a lot different 120 pounds than it would have been then. But anyway, after I got back from Germany with a girlfriend, I was looking at these pictures of myself, and I noticed that I had sort of gained weight. Now I'd been lifting weights all this time, but I saw these pictures and I said, I'm not that. I am not going to be this plump woman, senior citizen. Even though I've been working out, I just felt fuller. I look at myself, and so I just knew there was a better me in there. And so I told Dustin, okay, I'm gonna lose some weight here. Even though I've been lifting and all this, my nutrition wasn't on point. And I set a goal to lose 1 pound, and this is what I did. I lost 1 pound. I set a goal to lose 1 pound, and I set 1 pound goals. And I think this is something people should consider instead of I need to lose 10 pounds or I need to I just set a goal for 1 pound, work on it, lose it, work on your next pound. And in 4 months, I lost 10 pounds and I kept those pounds off. But it was also a determination thing. So I was leaning out during that, but it was seeing me and saying, there's a better me in there than that. And I've been marking time at the gym instead of getting ahead, because I was, you can't, what do they say? You can't outrun the fork or whatever. No matter how much you lift, if you're eating bad, you're never going to get where you need to be. So that happened too. And that was very encouraging to me and people at the gym. Like they were saying, well, what's going on with Renee? These are people I'd seen for years, and I just said, well, it's math and science, right? It's calories in, calories out, and it's what you're doing. But anyway, so I'd already lost some weight then. So by the time I went on stage, I really I lost about 10 pounds from the beginning till the time I got on stage. And I got down to like 109 pounds or something. And that was probably too thin in the real world of looking back on it now. But I was an experiment. I mean, these guys didn't know how to train a almost 70-year-old woman
No.
for a competition. Nobody knew. So to me, I was like, the case study for them. So it was an experiment anyway, and so we found
So
out.
going back, so the losing 10 pounds and choosing to focus on a 1 pound goal at a time, one of the most important things to do with whatever we're going to do, especially when it comes to health, wellness, and weight loss, is to find small victories and progress, because progress is motivating. And if we can be motivated for long enough, we make a habit, we make the habit long enough, we make a lifestyle. So I like your approach to setting the 1 pound goal. But along with that, before you lost the 10 pounds, you looked at a picture, you come back from Europe, you look at a photo and you're like, yeah, that's not going to be me. Once again, we see the Renee difference. Whereas someone might look at that photo and say, oh, you're upper middle age now. That's okay. It's not that bad. Instead, you look at it
Mhm,
and said, I think there's a better me in there, and I'm going to go
mhm,
find it a pound at a time.
mhm. That's exactly what it was. That
And
is exactly.
so at that point, would you go out in public in a two-piece bathing suit?
Oh yeah, I never stopped wearing a bikini. That was it. That
Okay.
was the thing. I mean, now, but and at that time, like if that was the best I was still better than other people at my age.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
mean, so I was still ahead of the curve there. But and there's some before and after pictures on my Instagram, and I even posted some on Facebook for people. And I don't look terrible. I just look pleasingly plump with a little muscle, but
And
it made a big difference.
but what in one of the most under recognized and under talked about things that happens is we go back, you haven't lost the 10 pounds yet. definitely compared to your colleagues or contemporaries, you're actually in a two-piece. Most 60 some year olds won't. In fact, today, sadly, most 20 something year olds aren't going to, they won't. But you were better than they were. Okay. That was your starting point. Sitting here today, how much more self-confidence do you have? How much greater is your self-esteem having, continued to evolve your physique? Do you think you have more self-confidence today?
I think I do. I think a lot of it is just that I accomplished so much, and whatever the body looks like is because of the hard work. It's like a side effect of lifting, and watching your nutrition. It's just a bonus. It's like lanyap if you're Cajun. It's just a little icing on the cake because you've been taking care of yourself. So I feel good. I mean, and also when you get to be my age, you sort of feel a little bit like you can say and do things that other people can't say and do, and maybe get by with it some. So I'm a lot more open about things and less restricted with my behavior, just in general in life, I guess. But definitely more confidence. And I'm still that woman who uh, is also, still looking at myself about how I can improve. Um, Also, I mean, I'm still doing that, but I also have this one thing that I say that I actually learned from a therapist from years of therapy. Sometimes after you've done everything you can, you just say, "That's good enough." And so sometimes I just have to remind myself, "That's good enough." I'm good enough, and that's not too bad.
We've seen a lot of people over the years. The interesting byproduct is their self-confidence goes up. They feel better about who they are. They feel better in their own skin. And part of it is they have these accomplishments where they set their mind to something, they saw it through, they met an obstacle, they overcame it, and it feeds into the self-confidence.
Hmm. Yes, I
And
agree.
and then the other thing is, and this will be interesting because you are 70, approaching 71 here. How how many people do you see, we'll say in their from age 50 and up, that have thrown in the towel, like they're not out doing the things you're doing?
A lot of them, a lot of people. I mean, I'd say that's more the norm, unfortunately, than the other. So a lot of people, but if I'm around them, they are, they know I'm an encouraging energy around them. So whom all my friends know it, and so uh, I think there's always hope. Quit throwing in the towel. Like I said, don't limit yourself. People limit themselves, and that's sad because if you're 50, you might live another 20 or 30 or 40 years,
Yeah.
and what a crappy life to live. Just mediocre. That sucks.
And that's kind of the way I see some of my contemporaries in terms of age. They they're not doing stuff with their kids. And in some cases, they're now 2 decades past when they were physically active and even remotely managed what they did or didn't eat, and now they're just spectating on life. And it's like, you can change this. Like,
That's right.
you can do some things different, small things at first, and build upon the small things, and pretty soon there'll be big things, and pretty soon you'll be back to participating in life.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
what is your, like, right now, how many days a week do you exercise?
Well, I lift 5 days a week, and pretty much Monday through Friday, and I have the same routine now. Because of my fusion, there's certain things I don't do, but I do cardio. I try to do cardio every day, so even on the weekends, and that's usually the elliptical. Somewhere it depends on what I'm trying to accomplish, but maybe 45 minutes to an hour, maybe less if I'm in prep closer. Because this doing a lot of cardio is a myth, as you know. People do too much of it. If you just lift more, you don't have to do as much cardio, right?
Yes. Yeah. So we had a young lady, 6 months doing hours of cardio every week, lost 4 pounds, 6 months doing things our way, 3 hours a week or less. That's it. 3 hours a week or less, predominantly weight training. She lost 70 pounds. And
There you
what
go. That's fantastic.
in that's, but a lot of folks misunderstand and they look at it, they're like, "Why? I don't have hours a day to spend in the gym." Well, neither does Renee. Like I'm
Mhm.
guessing you're not in the gym 3 hours a day.
No, but I do. I kind of spend a lot of time there because I feel like it's home. Like I bring my food there.
But
I go
that
there and work out.
but that's in, having owned a gym, there are some folks, and I'm not putting you in this bucket, but there is a social aspect to that. There's a culture
Hmm.
aspect to that. And in your case, those like-minded individuals, like other competitors, things of that nature, that ends up being our somewhat social network too. But if we broke it down
Hmm.
and just looked at minutes exercise per day, you're not spending hours a day exercising.
No, you're not. You're absolutely.
And
That's correct.
that a lot of folks, that becomes the excuse. Well, I don't have hours a day. Great, you don't need hours a day.
That's right. That's right.
It,
There's a way to do it if you want to do it.
yeah, and back to
Hmm.
that decision in
Hmm.
deciding to do things differently.
Hmm.
What about
Absolutely.
food?
Well, I've always been a pretty healthy eater. And of course, I eat, even before I started competing, I was pretty much eating like you would eat if you were going to compete because I do meal prep. I'm a pescatarian. I don't eat meat. I do eat eggs and maybe a little bit of cheese, but I don't eat anything but seafood. So and eggs, and I eat a lot of the eggs and egg whites. Like I just discovered mussel egg. It's pretty good stuff. Um, so that's the first thing, and I do meal prep. To me, that is the best thing to do. I'm single. I don't have a family to prepare meals for, but regardless, meal prep to me makes all the difference because you don't have to have this spontaneous eating. You grab something out of the pantry because you have food already prepared, and there's all kind of ways to do that. But pretty much I eat the same thing every day. I Food is my fuel. I'm not. I mean, I love good food, but I'm not a foodie in the sense that I have to try all these rich sauce. I don't even want that stuff, honestly. Fried food. I mean, I can't. No. Um, but so I eat healthy food, and egg whites for breakfast. I eat oatmeal before I go to the gym. I bring food to the gym. I'm going to have some protein and carbs before and after I work out. And I try to spread, and the big thing, as you know, is to eat enough protein. And that is like so important. And women in their 50s, it's a hard thing to get your head around this idea that you got to eat and you got to eat. And if you want to build muscle, if you don't want to lose muscle and you don't want to have all these bones, this osteoporosis, you got to eat right, and you got to lift some weights. I mean, weights are where it's at. That's what I say.
And it's food wise, it's the way I've always taught people. It's like building a campfire, a bonfire, whatever term you want to apply. If we sit down and we don't have a fire and we get the biggest logs that we intend to burn that evening and we try and start with those, we're not going to
Hmm.
start a fire. But if we start with kindling and we gradually add wood to the fire, at some point we can throw the biggest logs we have on it. It burns even brighter and hotter. And the metabolism, in a lot of ways, just speaking in generalities, is the same way. Once you've been consistently weight training, eating adequate calories and protein, we theoretically, if for every pound of muscle you gain, you raise your metabolism by 35 calories per day. So if you gain 10
Awesome.
pounds of muscle, you theoretically raise your metabolism 350 calories per day. So it's, again, we start with kindling and we keep piling it on, and that metabolism just burns hotter and burns more calories, which is counter to what we're always told in pop culture and the media, which is diet more, eat less. That's not the path to success. And then the weight training piece, we don't build muscle with cardio. We do with, you know, progressive overload with weight training. We don't build strong bones with cardio. We build strong bones with progressive overload via weight training. And even, dietary calcium, I think it's 15 to 20% absorbed from diet at best. And typically we have to fortify that vitamin or that calcium with vitamin D to even absorb at that rate. So really, if you want strong bones and want to avoid osteopenia, osteoporosis, pick up heavy things a few days a week and set them back down.
Amen. I agree.
So what about, do you ever drink alcohol?
Sometimes, not if I'm in prep. I mean, I might have something, but in general, I don't drink on a regular basis. I mean, I used to drink. I mean, even when I was lifting, just recreational, I would drink, but not a lot. And as I've gotten more into fitness, I'm not as interested in drinking. I mean, I think you can go have fun and socialize without drinking. It's definitely possible. In fact, I just met some friend last night, and I had Diet Coke at the wine bar, and that's all I had,
But
and I was fine with that.
and we see that a lot. You kind of start to, I tell people as they go down the health journey, even for entrepreneurs, as you go down the entrepreneurial journey, your social circles will change. And when you start taking health and wellness to a different place, not even just getting on stage and competing, but once it becomes enough of a priority, you will start to have less in common with some people in your social circle. Now, other people will come into it and kind of replace
Mhm.
them. And the other thing that happens is what you said. You realize, like, you can go to the wine bar and drink a calorie-free diet beverage and still have a good time.
Right. But it's what you think about before you go there, and that's part of it too. You have a plan in your mind, and I often will eat before I go to a party, even to a dinner, where I know they're not going to have my food, and I will eat right before I go, and I do that quite often. And it's planning and thinking ahead. It's really easy to screw up whenever you're out there in the world with all your buddies, and it's easy to screw up, and it happens. But if you think about it, it depends on what you've got. Like, what am I planning down the road here? Like in the next month, what's going on? I'm going to be in a show or whatever, and so that's on your mind, and you just make the choices. And it's not like I feel deprived either. It's like, I'm making this choice. Again, that word choice. I'm making this choice to
Yeah.
have a Diet Coke tonight, and that's what
Now,
I'm having, and I'm having a great time.
Now, the flip side is if you did want to enjoy a glass of wine or whatever, you certainly could. And it's not going to completely upset the apple cart. But that being said, you're not interested in doing so. And that's
No,
kind of
no.
a lot of people
Hmm.
don't realize is that you can get to a point where it is a decision and you're going to choose things in line with your goals and you're totally okay with it. Whereas many on the outside looking in are like, oh, well, Renee can't possibly be enjoying herself because she's not having the wine. Well, it's like, well, no, I could have the wine. I'm not interested.
Right. That's exactly right. And there are people who think you're not having fun because you're not participating in those things. But that's what they think. It's what
Right.
we think that matters, really. And we can let them think whatever they want to. My happiness is not predicated on other people's you know um, acknowledgement of me. So it's all good.
Nice. Now, what would you say the top three do's and don'ts are?
Okay, top three. And there's so many, but I'll try to, summarize them. So
It's
one,
hard.
it is hard. It is hard. Uh, Top three do's. The first one is start small and get a routine. And get organized. Write your goals down. This is the beginning. The beginning. If you're in the beginning stages, don't get overwhelmed. And I believe in writing stuff down. So start small, have a plan, get organized in your house. Get organized in with your workout clothes, with your food, get organized. Okay, so that's one. The second one is forgive yourself when you screw up. I mean, it's going to happen whether you're drinking or you're going to go eat, a gigantic ice cream sundae or whatever, a big old, piece of fried chicken. But but forgive yourself. The minute you forgive yourself and you just get started over again, do that. I mean, we beat ourselves up. It happens, and so screw up and forgive yourself and just move forward. The other do thing is to eat enough. Eat enough protein. That's what I would say. You've got to eat, and it's 1 gram of protein for every pound of body weight per day at a minimum. Whether you're working out or not, women need it. Women don't understand that you got to eat, and you got to eat enough carbs. You got to have all of it. So that's the other thing. Eat enough, and protein is the key. And you can do that. I spread my meals out 5 meals over the course of the day, and I get my protein in all those meals. So by the end of the day, I've accomplished my protein goal. So that's that. So those are my 3 do's. So my 3 don'ts are some things we've talked about. One, don't limit yourself by your age or your current circumstances. Just don't limit yourself. Just forget about your age. Just forget about that. Forget about whatever that thing is that's gnawing at you. Just forget about that. And you start thinking, I'm worth it and I'm doing it. So don't limit yourself. The second thing is don't waste a minute on negative self-talk or negative people. Get away from those people. Purge them from your life if you need to. If they're your family members or your supposed friends, you got to block that out. It doesn't mean you have to totally cut them off or cut yourself off from the world, but you don't want to put that negative energy out there. You don't want to take it in. You send the love back out there when you get that negative energy. Just don't say it out loud. I don't believe in being self-deprecating or anything like that. To me, that is so important. And the third thing is don't quit. Never quit. Don't quit. Whatever it is, whatever you're pursuing, whether it's, some career goal or fitness or friendship, whatever it is, just don't give up. Just keep doing it. Be persistent, be consistent. Those are just such regular things that you need to do.
And I think the 3 do's and 3 don'ts are great advice that would apply in all areas of life. And I think it's simple. And really, I think at the end of the day, most things are doable for most people. We just failed to make the decision to do things differently.
I agree. You're right. So it's a decision, it's a choice, and you can make whichever choice you want to make. And I choose life and feeling good and taking care of myself. And I choose blocking out all that negative stuff that might prevent me from doing that. I have control over how I react to my environment. We all need to remember that.
Well, Renee, thank you for carving out part of your day to spend some time with me, share your story. I think it's inspiring. I think you are chronologically might be years of age, might be 70, but having spent the better part of an hour with you, you're definitely decades younger. And it shows in your activities, your actions, your decisions, and the fact that you're stepping on stage as a competitor, the first time being which, you were almost 70 years of age. I think that's awesome.
Well, thanks, Ray. And thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. I'm just a normal person with some extra determination. That's what I tell people. Anybody can do this. It's just bring it into yourself and don't be afraid to do it. And thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
If you like our content, be sure to subscribe to our channel, leave us a comment below. Also, be sure to check us out on your favorite podcast provider. See the links in the description below.